Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Welcome to I Hate Rock Music. And I'm going to do a little chat about the band Sam Gopal. And of course, a lot of people know about them because Lemmy from Motorhead was in this band, oddly enough, as a guitar player. And so a lot of people kind of know about this record now, but I'm going to go into it a little bit and talk about the pluses and minuses. So they started out as Sam Gopal's Dream, and they had a couple different lineups. One of the more interesting lineups for me is the first lineup because it has Mick Hutchinson on guitar, who ended up in the Clark Hutchinson Retribution and is a killer guitar player, and then Pete Sears on bass, who ended up in Silver Meter of all things, and then eventually Jefferson Starship. So pretty interesting that he ended up being uh, Mick Hutchinson and Pete Sears ended up in this band, and then Andy Clark on keyboards, who ended up in the Clark Hutchinson Retribution, and then ended up in Bebop Deluxe. And then the common thread in Sam Gopal and Sam Gopal's Dream is Sam Gopal himself on tablas. So really, kind of bizarre to me that the guy that plays tablas in the band would be in a hard rock band, and then would be in these various incarnations of this band with just playing tablas. An odd band leader. So the second lineup from 1969 was Lemmy on guitar and vocals, Roger D'Elia on guitar, Phil Duke on bass, and Sam Gopal on tablas. So basically a trio with tablas added to it. And this is the lineup that recorded the album. And so the album um, came out in 69. I think it was recorded in 68 and then released in 1969 on Stable Records called Escalator. And the band was based out of London and had a pretty high profile. Robert Stigwood, who managed Cream, took the band on, so they had high hopes for the group. And Jimi Hendrix actually sat in with the Sam Gopal's Dream at the Speakeasy in 1967, so interesting connection there. And then in 1967, they actually did some for their first recordings produced by Gus Dudgeon, who's a very famous English producer and shows up on a lot of these great records from the late 60s, early 70s. And so when you get into the record, it's pretty interesting. Lemmy wrote most of the songs and does the guitar playing, which is pretty adequate, and then does the vocals. And a lot of times you can recognize that it's Lemmy, but turns out he's got a pretty nice voice. There's a couple of ballads on the record, and he sings very convincingly as an actual singer, and not what we came to know in Motorhead. But there's a lot of psychedelic elements to it, and there would be coming out in 68, 69, and then a lot of hard rock elements to it. And then, like I mentioned, these acoustic songs, the song Escalator itself is pretty heavy. And then they do a pretty faithful version of Season of the Witch, which of course got covered by a number of people. I'm pretty sure Donovan wrote that song. And it even has female backup singers. So it's a really odd listen with these ballads, this psychedelic aspect to it, this hard rock aspect to it, and then interesting cover, female backup singers, real real potpourri of things on this record. It's too bad it wasn't all a hard rock album, and it's kind of surprising that Lemmy would be in it and have all these different textures in there. But hats off to him. And then the latest reissue of it actually has two songs from an acetate. One's called Horse, and then they do a cover of the blues classic Backdoor Man, and they both fit in nicely with the record. They're both a little more hard rocking. And so anyway, I'm not sure what else to say about Sam Gopal, other than you Lemmy fans out there, if you don't know about it, check it out. I'll put the link below. I'll also include the acetate songs. But it's definitely an interesting oddity and a nice piece of UK rock history, and a pretty satisfying listen. As a whole, I might not recommend the record. It's got some highlights to it, but it's not that consistent, and I wish it had more of a theme to it, and I think it would have been better suited to them to put out more of a straight hard rock album because with that lineup, when they do play some heavier numbers, it's pretty convincing. But the biggest revelation for me was just hearing Lemmy as a writer and as a guitar player, and then seeing other sides of his vocal abilities. So, interesting curiosity, definitely worth checking out. I posted it below, as I mentioned, and enjoy. I'm Brett Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.